Hey, good, good morning, everyone. Um, Good morning. I don't know why my video is doing something weird, but I'm going to try. There we go. How's everybody this morning? It is Saturday, June 24th. I can't believe I've lived in South Carolina for a year. It's very weird. Um, and I'm noticing that I have like brownie on my face. Yes, I made brownies last night, and so now I have like, of course, I had to eat all the batter. So I titled today's message, What's Your 20%? And I think about a lot of things in life where it's that last bit of info that we don't want to give up. So, and we think of it as unimportant. So, for example, I don't think I want to give the Lord after 5 o'clock. I'd really rather just watch TV and drink some wine. And like last night, I made homemade brownies. And, sometimes we just don't want to do that. And yet the power's in that last 20%. And we see that in a lot of different places. Like this is the meat, but it's what's left. And Jesus wants it all. He doesn't want part of it. So this is coming from the message in John 4 when Jesus talks to the woman at the well. So he goes into the Samaritan village at Sychar, and the Samaritan woman comes there at the middle of the day. So she comes at the middle of the day because she has a reputation, and it's not a reputation for being the best water drawer. And Jesus approaches her, again, not a conversation that should even be happening, and says, can you give me a drink? And she's like, whoa, there's a wall. I'm a Samaritan, you're a Jew, not going to happen. And then he says, well, if you knew who you were talking to, you'd get living water. And she says, do you think you're greater than our ancestors? Can you offer this water? And then he says, anyone who drinks will not become thirsty. And then she says, I want this water. And he says, okay, go get your husband. She says, but I don't have a husband. He said, thank you, that's true. That's what I wanted. I wanted truth. And so he tells her story, and she's like, whoa, no, but can I really worship? Can Jews and worship together? And then he says, this is what we're looking for, people to worship in spirit and in truth. Now, here's where I think about that last 20%. What are we holding back? I bet you can name it. It's that thing you don't want to really talk about, the thing you don't mention, the thing you don't say. There's something in your life that you just don't want to let go of. Maybe it's a grudge. Maybe it's a sin. Maybe, you don't want to go to Celebrate Recovery because you don't want to admit that you have a problem with debt, overspending. Maybe you just can't give up your 2-pack-a-day habit. I don't know what it is. No, I'll be honest, I didn't think there was such thing as a 2-pack-a-day habit anymore. Being in Massachusetts, we don't see a lot of smokers. So many people smoke in South Carolina. It's so bizarre because it's so hot. Why would you want to be smoking? I don't get it. So I have a couple points I want to make about the woman of the well. The first is that Jesus breaks down barriers. So when we give that 20%, those walls can fall down. He's trying to do it, but we can't receive it because we have the wall. So in Hebrews 3, let me see. Where did I write down? 3:14. Today when you hear his voice, don't harden your hearts as Israel did when they rebelled. So it's talking about we're faithful to the end. We will share in all that belongs, but we have to let go. And back in that passage in John, it tells us, John 4:9. You are a Jew, I am a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me? For Jews refuse to have anything to do with Samaritans. He's like, big deal. All right, Psalm 73. 28. But as for me, how good it is to be near my God. I have made the sovereign Lord my shelter. I will tell everyone about the wonderful things you do. So connect. Philippians 2 said, for being in the very nature God, he gave up his rights and became a human. He broke down that I'm the God, you're not. Okay? And in Hebrews 10:19, by his death, Jesus opened a new and life-giving way through the curtain into the most holy place. And since we have a great high priest who rules over God's house, let us go right into the presence of God with sincere hearts, fully trusting him. For our guilty consciences have been sprinkled with Christ's blood to make us clean, and our bodies have been washed with pure water. Lawn crew. Okay, the next thing is Jesus allows for our doubts. So let's start with 2 Thessalonians. So she says, wait a minute, why are you talking to me? And he's like, let me tell you. I got a better way. So, 2 Thessalonians 3:4. And we are confident in the Lord that you are doing and will continue to do the things we commanded you. May the Lord lead you into a full understanding and expression of the love of God and the patient endurance that comes from Christ. So it doesn't say we're already there. It's like, not that I've already obtained this or I'm already perfect, but I keep pressing on. So he allows for that space to exist. He gets it. He totally gets it. I pray your hearts will be flooded with light so you can understand the confident hope he has given to those he's called, his holy people who are rich in glorious sins. So we have to let go of that to actually receive it. I'd heard a phrase once, and I use it every once in a while. We don't get grace in advance. So we can't say, Lord, if this happens, what's going to happen? Well, we don't get that grace. We can't walk through it. That's why when we meet people who've gone through horrific tragedy, we say to them, I can't imagine what you're going through, because you can't. We can't imagine. It's not in our scope to imagine something that hasn't happened. We can think about it, but we can't own what pain that would take until it's actually there. My heart is confident in you, O God. My heart is confident. No wonder I can sing your praise. Okay? Our confidence is in him. It's not in us. Jesus asks, he seeks out this woman. Okay? He seeks out this woman. And I had a couple passages about that. One is, in the Gospels when it talks about the lost penny, how you go and seek the lost penny. What does a shepherd do if he loses one sheep? He goes and seeks that person. Okay? And 2 Peter 3:9. Nope, that's John. Have I told you how much I love coffee? Just telling you. 2 Peter 3:9 says, the Lord isn't really being slow about his promise, as some people think. No, he's being patient for your sake. He does not want anyone to be destroyed, but wants everyone to repent. So he's waiting. And I have to tell you, one of the most exciting things about church is that our baptismal is always open. So if someone wants to get baptized, boom, done. And what I love about that is God's still in the business of saving the lost. How amazing is that? He is still seeking and saving the lost. We're looking at it on a worldly perspective, and we're like, man, we are all going to hell in a handbasket. The Lord's still seeking and saving the lost. Pretty awesome. And we know that, but we don't know that because we live in this world that's crazy. Jesus knows lots of verses about Jesus knowing. So he knows this woman's life. He knows why she's at the well at noon in the heat of the day carrying this heavy thing of water. It's not because she's trying to get sun and is working on her complexion. She's trying to hide. She's hiding by going when no one else is going to be there. So that's really pretty amazing stuff. All right, so in let's go, Psalm 103. Psalm 103 is a great one to read out loud. That 145, we learned that from Meg Woodruff. Psalm 103:14 says, "For he knows how weak we are. He remembers we are dust." That's not supposed to be an insult. It's just saying he really gets it. He gets it that, we're just fleeting and struggling all the time. Psalm 119, 168 says, "Yes, I obey your commandments and laws because you know everything I do." Everything I do. It's interesting how, there's a thing that, if we know the good we ought to do and don't do it, it is sin. I think about my 20%. I am not saying I've yielded my 20%. I am working on that. Like every day I'm like, okay, how can I be a little bit more honest with myself, with my family, with my husband, with the Lord? And it's hard finding what we don't want to let go of. Psalm 139:2 says, "You know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts even when I'm far away." 139:23 says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life." And finally, Acts 1:24. I don't know how I'd be getting through that. Remember, I bought that new Bible a while ago, and I said, let's see how it goes, and it didn't. It went back to the store. "Then they all prayed, 'O Lord, you know every heart. Show us which of these men you've chosen an apostle to replace Judas in this ministry.'" But the whole point is he knows. He knows which is the right person. He knows which is right for each thing. All right, finally, Jesus knows what matters. In the end of that passage in John 4, and the end of the section on the woman of the well, and he said, "There's a time coming when it will no longer matter whether you worship God the Father on the mountain or in Jerusalem. You Samaritans know very little about the one you worship, while we Jews know all about him, for salvation comes through the Jews." But this is kind of that. He's coming for the Jews and the Gentiles. "But the time is coming, indeed it's here and now, when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth." The Father is looking for those who will worship him that way. "For God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." Jesus knows what matters. He knows what matters. So a couple things you can think about with that. Micah 6:8, what matters? Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly. 1 Thessalonians 5:7, pray continuously, give thanks in all circumstances. Mark 12, and this is one of the ones that's in every synoptic gospel. What matters? What are the commandments? To love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and all your strength. The second is equally as important. Love the neighbor as yourself. No other commandment is greater than these. I often think about, when we think about the things that Christians are supposedly against, we're never, ever supposed to be against God's children. We're always supposed to be embracing people. One of my favorite verses, and I am kind of a wimp. I was sharing with a friend that had posted something the other day that I agreed with, and I said, I can't share stuff like that because I'm a wimp, and I can't stand all the attacks that's going to come. And sometimes I can't share it because I do feel like with some things on this earth, there's such confusion that people can't see truth. Or maybe I can't see the truth. I think I'm consistent with what God is trying to tell me. But I think it's hard. But I think if we look at all these things, in this situation, God loved the unlovable even though he knew. He didn't make a list of, he didn't have a checklist. So maybe when we give wholeheartedly and let go of those walls we put up, that's what it's about. A couple little anecdotes. Years and years and years and years ago, I can't believe how this even came to mind. My sister Robin and her husband were getting ready to move, and they lived in Worcester. They had a lovely house in Worcester that they liked, and they were looking for something, and they didn't want to not be in Worcester, and they definitely didn't want to be in Holden. So this was their wall. I'm not going to do this. And they wanted to be. They loved Greendale, blah blah blah. Wherever the reasons were. When they finally said, "We're not finding what we look. I think we need to open up in Holden." Boom, letting go of that thing. What's that? "I Will Trust in You," that song by Lauren Daigle, letting go of every single thing. I'm going to write that down. That'll be our song today. The other thing I think is the coolest thing is, this isn't the 80-20. Well, it is the 80-20. So if you know anything about me, I love American Ninja Warrior. And there's a very successful ninja. His name is Austin Gray, and his thing is share your spare, because he gave up an organ for a friend who needed one. So he's all about organ donation. And you think about share your spare and his platform and how many lives he can reach because he took what seemed like an extra. Now, I'm sure this was not a light decision. It almost might seem easier to share your spare organ than to share the truth about what you're struggling with. But share your spare. He let go of that, and God blessed it in abundance by giving him this platform to share the importance of donating organs and the importance of going beyond yourself in these situations. So let it go. Let's work on that together. I struggle with that. I struggle with that with a lot of ways. And I think one of the things that's made me so aware of this now is I spend a lot of time by myself. I'm having to relearn life. And so I'm becoming much more aware. I'm thinking about thinking. And it's not always easy. So God bless you guys today, and I'll share a song in just a minute, and you have a great day. It's going to be sunny today here in Myrtle Beach. It's been raining all week, so kind of excited. And hey, don't forget, pray about it. Love you guys. Blessings.